People who have worked the drive-thru, what's the weirdest thing you've seen in someone's car? 2 guys naked on a bench seat. Driver made sure to tell me they weren't gay. Dude had a full-on sex doll dressed up in his passenger seat. Sunglasses, dress and even a hat. I couldn't even tell it was fake until I asked for their order. Co-worker and I looked at each other simultaneously and we both said, was that a sex doll? This is in a wealthy area of my city as well, so it was definitely a first. My gym teacher. Drunk. He started eating the tacos at the drive-thru window. He was there for over 5 minutes. Just eating. I saw him the next day in school. We both acted like nothing happened. Only worked drive-thru for a year, but the weirdest thing I saw was an alpaca in a minivan. They asked at the window if they could order some apple slices for the alpaca. I just gave them 2 packs on the house. Had a guy consistently come through the drive-thru with his penis out and showing the young girls running the windows. He would always order the same thing. Large mellow yellow no ice. Always on a Sunday. And always wearing military fatigues. Then he stopped showing up for a bit. We called him Private Peters as our little sign to call the cops if he showed up again. A month later we get an order for a large mellow yellow no ice. So I decide to take over the window because had a 16-year-old running cash, and sure enough he hands me his money with his dick in his other hand. He convinced the car in front of him to stay in the lane and we called the cops. He got suspicious and left, but they caught him and was charged. A car pulls up. And all 4 people are just completely naked. Just casually chilling. Not seen. But I heard a blowjob taking place over the headset. It was a location open 24/7, so we had to reset the tills for 10 minutes every evening at 11 PM so people would just sit in their car and wait. Most people don't realize that we could hear everything. The speakers don't turn off while the vehicle is there. Someone threw a fish at me once. Didn't order anything. Just a drive-by fish attack. Someone pulled a gun on my brother because the salsa containers weren't completely full. You can get as many as you want for no extra charge. Had a customer come through with a giant grandfather clock in the back seat. The thing was so huge it was sticking out the side window. Which just so happened to be on the left side of the car. Which meant dude couldn't get close enough to the window to reach his food and had to step out. Cursing the whole time. Here's your change. Hey, do you happen to know what time it is? This is a recent headline from Arizona, where I live. Man, 70, was arrested with the body of his dead wife in his car after a stunned worker at a Carl's Jr. drive-thru in Arizona spotted him wearing only his underpants with the naked corpse upside down in the passenger seat. I worked at a Tim Hortons and once saw an old lady with like 50 cartons of eggs in her car. I made a joke saying looks like you could make your own breakfast, and she got real straight-faced and said, oh honey, those aren't eggs. Still have zero clue what else you would store in egg cartons. Golf balls. I used to steal gold balls from a golf course water hazard in the woods around the course. Sold them in egg cartons for $5. Edit. The F key is directly next to the D key. Men. 2 guys were hotboxing and decided to come to the drive-thru. They did not stop smoking even when they pulled up to the window. I swear a cloud of smoke rolled out the window when they lowered it to pay. They offered me a hit and I politely declined. Edit. For everyone asking. This was in mid-Michigan in 2005-ish. I was working the drive-thru at Burger King in a snowstorm. Driver orders a Coke with no ice. When I hand them the Coke, they empty it a bit. Break off a couple icicles hanging from the car. Put in the Coke. And drive off without saying a word. Peter, holy crap. What a way to wake up. Thank you. Guy pulls up. I look in the backseat and there's a dude with all 4 fingers wedged up this lady's vagina. She was not wearing anything below the waist. I had to double look just to make sure I wasn't crazy, and that is when the dude turned his head and gave me a dead stare into my eyes. Like he was trying to intimidate me. Very awkward and I did not know how to act. The entire car was filled with trash. Like legitimately up to ceiling in the back seat and up to shoulder height in the passenger seat. A woman drinking a tall boy of Budweiser. It was 5:30 in the morning at a Starbucks. There's also a guy that takes his 3 dogs for rides. They ride in buckled seats and wear goggles so the wind doesn't hurt their eyes. Edit to add. The lady drinking the beer was driving. Don't drink and drive. Guys. I used to see someone come through with a lifelike mannequin in their passenger seat. Either the guy sitting with a dog in his passenger seat and a coyote and a deer chilling in the back. Or the woman wearing just a bra. The driver had a comically large DLDO in the passenger seat. He'd buckled it in and put a hat on it. There was this woman that would come through and get a hot chocolate every day. Her name was Mary. Mary was an older gal in her 70s. Drove an early 90s Lincoln. Usually had some old tunes playing. And weighed 60 pounds. If that. She was always so happy and so nice. I always gave her drinks for free because it was always such a treat to see her and she was just so nice. One other feature I remember is she always rocked suspenders and a random colored fedora every day. I think she reminded me of M's Frizzle after she retires. One day, she comes through and orders her usual. I said, "Mary, why are you always in such a good mood? What's your secret?" She smiles and waves me closer. I lean out of the drive-through window and she says, "Really? Really good drugs?" She winks at me, turns her radio up, and cruises out of the parking lot. Mary is my hero. My little sister used to work at a local Wendy's. A woman came through the drive-through one day with either a pet or a service animal. That animal happened to be a monkey. Does a naked man with bags from Burger King and Taco Bell already count as a thing? Had a drunk guy come through drive-through. A cop car was in line right behind him. Told the cops about the drunk guy. He was blitzed and was going to kill someone. Cops said they knew as they were planning on pulling him over before he turned in and went to the drive-through. They decided they were hungry and decided to get food too before pulling him over. They stayed at the back window and had us give them their food first so they could follow him out. Pulled him over in the parking lot. Was kind of entertaining. There was this really cute blonde girl that would always come through the drive-through naked on Saturday nights. Every now and then she would have another friend with her. We always knew when it was her by the constant giggles coming from her car as she ordered. We always had weird customers. Being it was the world's largest McDonald's located in Orlando, Florida. An order for 88 Big Macs or 120 cheeseburgers was not out of the ordinary though. There is one guy who drives a hearse. It was a car that ran well and he could afford it. So when a teenager pulls up to the window in his hearse you get a little shocked. I also saw someone with a chicken. Complete with a harness and leash. It was cute. This dude pulled up and his girlfriend or whatever was almost entirely naked on the seat next to him. Sleeping. When he pulled up, he saw my shocked expression. Pulled her thin jacket, the only thing on her body besides the seatbelt, to cover her nipple and asked for some ketchup. He was shockingly casual. This girl used to come through with like 3 dogs. I finally asked her, "Do you have to feed these beasts?" And she explained that she just walks and grooms them. Well, one day she came through the drive-through with like 15 dogs and she screamed through the intercom my business finally took off and got a bunch of chicken tacos for them. Come to think of it, I think she may have been trying to flirt with me. Damn. Not sure if it counts as something weird. But I found out after marrying my wife that she would go to a certain Chick-fil-A location drive-through almost every day before work. Turned out during the time she was going there I was working there and I ran the drive-through 5-6 days a week and strictly in the mornings. So for about a year I saw my wife almost every day before I even met her. And didn't realize it till after being with her for years. Edit. Marrying I did not actually disfigure my wife. And this was not an admission of guilt. Marrying did not occur on my behalf, she is just clumsy and fell. Oh, finally I have something. I worked at a McDonald's in a small town in Michigan. Think 2 stoplights, and when the car pulled up to the front window, they had a whole baby kangaroo in their lap. I don't know where they got that from or why, but the closest zoo was 2 hours away. I was working a McDonald's drive-thru in a small town in Michigan. This truck goes through, pays and pulls forward to get its meal. Then a chicken jumps out of the back. I yell for the next car in line to stop, but she looks confused and ends up running over the chicken. It's not dead, but it's a wreck. She looks at me and we're both in tears. She says she has to and I say no. She puts it on reverse and backs over the chicken again. Another employees had to get a shovel and scoop up the dead chicken from the drive-thru. I worked at Domino's and one lady used a hand-crocheted blanket to keep her pizzas warm. Kept the blanket in the front seat and paid it over the boxes. I crochet, so I know how much work went into that blanket. These 2 ladies with tons of tattoos and cigarettes came through. Got their 2 McChickens. And as they were pulling away I saw there were balloons just crammed into the entire back half of the car. Just filled to the brim with balloons. Another time I was helping these 2 teen boys when I heard a quack from the back seat. That's the duck, one of them told me. Followed by a honk from the back. And that's the goose. It's worth noting that they had just left a football game and come straight to the drive-thru, so Lord only knows where the duck and goose were before that. Edit. I can't believe I forgot to mention the drunk girl in the backseat who leaned out to show me her dolphin temporary tattoo. Mimicked a dolphin to tell me it was a dolphin. And showed me photo booth pics of her and her bestie. I admit I have gone through the drive-thru with sheep in my backseat. It was either the 12-year-old driving or the lady in a right-hand drive car. The fact she had the audacity to get mad at me because I couldn't reach her money. 4-foot hooker. Prepped and ready to go. So we have 2 really crazy drive-thru stories. My family owns a franchise of a fast food chain. My brother is taking the drive-thru order. Lots of muffled talking as though it's a group of people trying to decide what to order. Along with some shushing. Not unusual. Car pulls around to the window from the speaker. The trunk pops open and a guy jumps out and begins running like hell away. 4 guys in the car jump out after him. Tackle him in the street. Throw him back in the trunk and speed off. The other one wasn't so much what was in the car. But I was working drive-thru while a very large local parade that goes down the street in front of the restaurant was happening. Towards the end of the parade, a nice convertible comes crashing through the parking lot, taking out signs and the drive-thru menu board. Turns out they had stolen the donated car from the parade route and took it for a joyride through the parking lot. I hope he reported that first one to the cops. Or at least to someone who would. Edit. I worked a drive-thru at Arby's and a D agent came through in his squad car. When he pulled up to the window and I handed him his food and he thanked me. Turned around into the criminal holding area and screamed, "Shut up before I break your nose." I was clearly mortified. Then he turned back to me and said, "Just kidding, there's nobody back there." Laughed and drove off. A 50-year-old man with Down syndrome playing with his willy in the passenger seat while his aide picked up his meds. He made eye contact with me the entire time. Unfortunately there's no climax to this story, no pun intended. Closed the window and didn't say a word. There's a time and place for everything. But gotta do what ya gotta do, I guess. Comma, no pun intended. I call bull. Lady came through once with 2 albino ferrets on her lap. I had a guy try to pull me through the drive-thru window into his car when I was a teenager working at McDonald's. Not really weird, but there was a very large woman, no judgment, who would come through covered in sweat. I assume because it was summer and she didn't have a C in her car. And she stored her money in her bra. So when she went to pay you'd have to watch her pull soaking wet cash out from between her boobs and accept it from her without flinching. I've regularly seen handwritten signs on cash registers that say "no boob money." Apparently it's a bigger issue that we ever knew before COVID. This girl probably in her 20s came through and had a bunch of Starbucks cups and other fast food trash piled up all the way to the ceiling of her car. In the backseat and in the passenger. Some old dude getting a hand job and finished as I handed him the bag. Thank you. Come again. A cow in the back of a pickup truck with a very haphazardly welded on cage around the cow. When I was working at a Starbucks in Montana. A goat. In a sweater. I saw more penises that I care to recount. I was 15. On Christmas Eve this guy comes through and I'm taking his money when he asks if I want to see his stump. I wasn't really thinking and said sure. The guy opens his car door and reveals that his left leg was amputated from the knee down. Again. Without thinking I asked him if he was alright. He said he was. And while closing his door he mentioned that he needed to be careful when getting out because he has fallen on his face before. Used to work at McDonald's back in the day. I was training a new girl. And told her to hand the man at the window his drink. The window opens. And I notice the adult man driving is wearing a bib. Weird. But to each their own. As the new girl reaches out her hand to pass the man his drink. He just starts vomiting on himself. Violently so. There was splatter. The new girl stood there in shock. So I grabbed her and pulled her back. The window automatically closed and the man eventually drove away. Another weird instance is when I was handing a man a small chocolate shake. I kid you not, a small monkey wearing a diaper hopped up on the man's seat and reached out and took the shake from me. Worst part is, none of my co-workers believed me because I was the only one who saw the monkey. My friend works as a cashier at a McDonald's. While waiting for his food. This one client was watching something on his phone and my friend absent-mindedly stared at the phone without actually paying attention. The dude turns and makes eye contact with her and gets super embarrassed and my friend realizes he was watching PRN the whole time. She awkwardly handed him his food after. This might count. I was 17 in high school. Was a shift supervisor and it was a Sunday with 3 people called out so we were slammed. I was cleaning trays, washing dishes, and taking orders in the back at the same time non-stop for 3 hours. My manager comes back and says he needs me to push a van that had broken down at the window. What MF takes such tight care of their van? I start walking to the front door and look out the drive-through window. There is a young lady in full habit attire with 5 other very elderly women. Also in full habit attire. I had never seen a nun in person before or since. They look at me and smile. Sorry about this. Without missing a beat, no problem ladies. We'll take care of it. So me and one other guy push it out of the way and help the tow truck guy when he came. The nuns thanked us, blessed us, and ride off. I look at my coworker. Did you swear when you heard their car broke down? Yup. Me too. We're going to hell. Yup. Guy whacking it. I made the GM give him his food. He handed him the bag. Said make sure you wash your hands before you eat. And shut the window. Thereafter too. I was working the late night shift at a Taco Bell drive-thru when I was 16. This dude came in with a car full of his buddies. All obviously high. While waiting for his food he starts chatting me up about how much he loves Taco Bell. No like. You don't understand. It's my favorite thing ever. I love you guys. I even have a tattoo. He proceeded to unbuckle and shift in his seat so that he could stick his ass out his open window. And just dropped Tro. Right there on his right cheek. In full color. Was the Taco Bell symbol and catchphrase. Think outside the bun. I was too stunned to really say anything. Never forgot it. The best is that in a drive-thru the operator can hear everything. If you're whispering in the backseat thinking you're quiet, I promise they can hear you. They can hear whispering but I have to repeat my order and they still get it wrong. Well, not sure if this counts. Car drives off the highway where there isn't a road. Drives down steep grassy hill into the parking lot. Man jumps out. Yells I forgot my sauce. and runs inside the Burger King. SX. Our drive-through faced west. This will become important later. We also shared a parking lot with a wing place. There was a van parked in the parking lot to the wing place and this couple were just going at it inside of it. The windows were tinted. But because it was sunset, the sun was shining through the windows so we could see the silhouette of them testing the van's suspension. I called all of my co-workers over and we gave them a round of applause when they finished and got out of the van to hop back in the front seats. The man looked proud of himself. The woman looked embarrassed. A pet seagull. It was just sitting there in the passenger seat. He had a weird like nylon string collar thing. When I was like 15 and worked at MCDs, this guy would come through sometimes that had taken child mannequins, made them look dead by coloring them blue and grey, and posed them in weird positions facing out of his passenger and backseat windows. A guy drove through with a live duck riding with him. The duck immediately went for the bag of fries. A dog with matching sunglasses to his owner was rad as. One time I saw 5 small children in the back seat. Not a single car seat or seatbelt on. The smallest one's diaper was so full it was exploding all over. Parents were definitely cracked out. I regret to this day I didn't report them. Not a worker but as a customer. One time I had to transport this huge replica military bomb last minute for a work thing and my car was full of decorations and sound equipment so I strapped it in at the passenger seat. Boss called and asked for coffee too so I stopped through a Starbucks forgetting I had this bomb in the front seat lol. About a year into working at Starbucks, 2 men in drag came through the drive-thru. They were driving something like a station wagon. And the entire backseat was full of just mannequin heads. Just the heads. I have fully accepted that I was a background character in a much more interesting story that day. I hope their madcap buddy road trip went well. Not a thing but a customer. This man who would come by every once in a while came through. I was at the second window. As soon as he pulled up all I smelled was weed. I turned to look at him and it was this guy smoking probably a 3-4G backwood. Completely dressed up in a very nice suit and very expensive sunglasses. I look at him. Hand him the food and say how's it going, he says pretty good man. You want a hit or what? I say nah bro I'm good, if my bosses notice I'm high I'll be ed. What's with the suit? He replies I got this stupid I'm parole hearing man. Hug and drives off. Didn't see him for a while after that. Not weirdest but most infuriating. Lady took a huge drag off her cigarette then turned to open her purse. Exhaled all of her smoke on her baby, who was in a car seat. In the front seat. Before you ask if I made some kind of heroic citizen's arrest. I was 16. It was a long time ago. When I was in college I worked at a drive-through car wash. They'd pull up. I would take their money and power wash their tires and grill before sending them through. At least once a week we would get someone wearing no pants. Usually women. Just butt naked from the waist down. I worked at McDonald's. Saw some pretty odd stuff to be fair. One dude had dyed his mohawk blue. Had a parrot and ordered like it was nothing. Had some other woman just sat there drinking a bottle of vodka at the wheel. At like 11 PM. 2 rats. A girl said they were her emotional support animals. It was a pretty cool interaction. A figurine of a black guy hanging from a noose from the rearview mirror of this teenager in a very rednecky truck. We knew his father. Somebody important. He came back to apologize to our black manager. On his son's behalf. He said something about sending him to military school. This was circa 2002. So I hope he's reformed.